Hi, and welcome to another episode of Walleye Chronicles, where I bring you in here and we start talking about fishing. It doesn't have to be walleye fishing, it can be any kind of fishing. Today's guest, Tyler Wickstrom, otherwise known as DC Bronzies, DC Bronzies, is it Bronzies?
Bronzies, yeah.
Bronzies on Instagram and on the YouTube is with me today. How you doing, Tyler?
Doing well. Glad we were able to make this happen.
Great, awesome. So the one thing, I see your content out there and you have great, awesome, you make me want to go fishing every time I see your pictures. It's always huge smallmouth or big walleyes or trout.
Yeah, I mean, I love doing smallmouth. That's kind of what I grew up doing. So, you know, bass fishing has been a big part of what I like to do, but really like to chase any kind of species. And for me, it's just been like whatever I can find that's big, I just like to target those trophy fish really of any species.
So where'd you get started fishing? Where are you from? Where'd you start?
You know, I started when I was young, probably, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5. You know, grandpa would bring me out to like ponds or something. I used to live by a pond when I was younger.
Nice.
My dad would bring me out. That's kind of like when it started, but like my real passion for it was 100% up in Door County when I started fishing bass up there. And I just realized like how insane of a fishery it was. So that was, for me, that was the biggest thing, was just.
So did you grow up in the area up there, or were you from?
I'm from Appleton originally.
So
yeah.
it's not too far of a hike.
Yeah, not too bad. My parents actually have a place up there, so
nice.
I'm fortunate enough to get to go up there often.
Right.
So that makes it fun. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So in high school, did you fish in around here then, or how did you kind of cut your teeth?
Yeah. I was went to Appleton North. Actually, I want to say it was my junior year. A couple people started the fishing team there. And that was more like focused on ice fishing and stuff. So that's when I really got into ice fishing, actually. Was kind of through that and just met a bunch of people there that like to fish. So that's kind of what I did in high school. And then, you know, bounced around, would ice fish like Poigan, some of the Winnebago system, you know, back bayous on the Wolf and stuff like that. But yeah, I do dabble a little bit around here, but something about Green Bay, I just can't stay away. It's like the size of each species is just insane.
Right. It's hard not to when you have that. It is a wonderful place. So what's your typical day when you want to go smallmouth fishing, say springtime? They're coming off the beds. What are you looking forward to? What do you want to do?
Yeah. I mean, I love the pre-spawn bite. Honestly, I think that's my favorite. I like to do it early when there's less pressure.
Yep.
I think that's when you definitely come across those bigger fish. Because I feel like it's tough because like I feel like a lot of those fish don't show themselves. Okay. Just because of the pressure. When you start getting a lot of boats up there, that's when those things are more spooky, and I think they just kind of try to stay away from that shallower water if they can when there's a lot of pressure. So earlier spring, and just I like fishing shallow. I like fishing deep. I'll do either. I mean, really just targeting the biggest fish that I can find. That's kind of.
So are you a scoper?
I like that. Yeah, that's kind of a loaded question. I mean, I kind of am. Like, now that I've gotten a boat, I'll be putting live scope on it, and I'll be doing that. So I like it a lot. I think it's cool. I think it's a cool thing. I'm not like the kind of guy that's completely anti live scope or anything like that. I see the pros and cons of it for sure, and I think that there's benefits and downsides, but what I love about it is how you can learn how fish react, how they behave. I think that's the coolest part about it, because you can go out and use live scope and learn a ton of things that you wouldn't otherwise without it. And you can go out the next time and say maybe not even use it, and that knowledge that you've gained now is like, that's going to help you catch more fish on a certain technique, a certain way that you're fishing, whatever it might be. So.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of in the middle. I don't really matter either way. It's one of those things where like I have 2 on my boat, one in the front, one in the back, whatever. So I'm, in it, but I haven't really like adjusted to it the way like the top level people have done. I kind of use it more of a looking for fish. But what I like about it is when you have a bad day, I still interacted with fish all day.
Well, that's the cool part.
Right? I could have caught one fish, but I probably interacted with 15 all day.
Right, and if you don't have it, do you always know that the fish are there?
Right.
Maybe, maybe not. I mean,
You have the side scan, stuff like
right,
that.
right.
So you have
Down
the old
image
school
side
ways.
scan. But I mean, I think it's an awesome tool. I really do.
It is a lot of fun. It is a lot of fun to look out there and see what's going on. And it's weird because things change. Like you probably see it. So like when I see like go on like odd lakes, every now and then I was going on a weird odd lake that no one really fishes a lot, a smaller lake, and I can get closer to those fish on a non-pressured lake than I can say if I go to Winnebago or Green Bay or something like that, where you have to bomb cast more often. And,
Right.
But it seems like some of those lakes that are like the fish are kind of starting to figure things out. Like everything kind of goes. I don't know if it's the beams that are frying their brains a little bit when they get hit by them too long, or what it is. But you go to these other small little lakes. I went to I think it was Green Lake, and people go there a lot and they scope a lot. But most of those guys are bass guys. I went into the walleye area and I'm like, I can get right up on these things.
Yeah, they're just not used to being pressured.
Right? Or in the river, you can get right on top of them a little better.
Yeah, I've always wondered about that. If the transducer beam has anything to do with
like
fish
it does.
being skittish,
I'm
or
not
if they can sense that. I don't know.
I'm not a genius at that, but I tend if I only have so much time to cast them before they're gone, it feels like to me. But most places I fish are pretty high pressured areas, so it's not like
Do you fish on the bay quite a bit then? Or?
Not on the bay quite. I'm usually Winnebago system a bunch, and I do fish in the bay. I would say probably maybe 25-30% of the time is on the bay or in town or through Beaver Dam, De Pere. So
Okay. Yeah.
but I don't get I started to do more trips and more things farther up over the last couple of years because I do a lot of tournaments, so I kind of have to figure it out eventually. So getting up there more often. I actually started taking and doing more bass stuff when I go up there too as well, because I'm like, I love smallies, but I grew up just outside of Berlin, so it was Green Lake was one of my places I started fishing. So it was always smallies in the dock and smallies in the rocks. So smallies have always kind of had like a thing in mind, like, hey.
Yeah, for sure.
Getting up there and catching fish up there that's so much fun. There's so many, like you said before, there's so many big fish, no matter what you're catching.
Yeah, and you can go do whatever any time of day. I mean, my buddy and I will go salmon fish in the morning, and then we'll bounce over to the bayside and go bass fish or whatever. And I think I'll probably get into more walleye fishing here as the time goes on, because I mean, who doesn't love chasing big walleyes?
Right.
I'm not just
especially you're already in the area for them.
Yeah. I mean, and those things out there in the spring and now in the summer that forward facing sonars become popular. I mean, you can get on them and stay on them for really pretty much the entire year.
It's weird seeing going to some of the areas where, in my time was always trolling and crawling harnesses. And I was like, you kind of have to like, okay, I'm going to have to get into the line of people going around and make it. Right. And now it's like, there's no, people just potted up everywhere.
Yeah. It's awesome to see like how many people get out and enjoy it, but it's also crazy the amount of people that are out now. I feel like every year it's noticeably busier and busier, which is great. Like, it's great to have people in the sport, but it's tough because when you get that much pressure, like sometimes it gets hard.
Right. If we're learning, the fish are learning too with us, right? They're learning what we're doing and all that kind of fun stuff. So what's like the weather up there is a little rough for you sometimes?
Yeah.
For a bass fisherman, you got to be, other than Erie, that's got to be one of the roughest places to fish.
Yeah, probably. That's one thing that I pay attention to all the time. Like, I'll be walking into work on a regular day and like, wonder what the wind direction is today. Like, I notice what the wind direction is. I notice like if it's a strong or a light wind. Like, it's just that kind of stuff that I think.
It's funny because I work in Oshkosh, and so I'll get on the highway in the morning and be like, there's a lot of boats around. I wonder what the weather must be nice today. There's all these big boats just heading north all the time.
Yeah.
You can tell the good days. But you don't have to pick your days, I feel like, sometimes up there. And
you do, yeah. And I think the big thing is having the right boat for the water, for sure. I mean, it's sometimes, it's tough because those boats are expensive, right? So it's like you can go out and fish up there because there's a lot, especially during the summer and even in the spring, there's a lot of days up there where you can get out in a 16, 17 foot aluminum boat, no problem.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
There's plenty of days. And that's one thing I didn't realize at the start was, I mean, you don't need a big boat to go out there. It obviously makes it a lot easier, so you don't have to pick those days. But there's a lot more days out there than not that you can get out there, because there's places you can go, you know, out of the way that's more sheltered.
For sure, yeah. Oh yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, you got Little Sturgeon and Sturgeon Bay and all that kind of stuff. You can get there and get stuff done. You want to get in there. You also ice fish up there.
I don't really ice fish up there too much. More so like down in the lower bay. Like to mess around with pike, walleyes, do a little whitefish for fun, just because those things are so easy to catch usually. That's kind of fun. And honestly, I mean, they're decent to eat.
Yep.
I don't mind eating them. So I don't know, kind of mess around doing that. And I don't know if it was 2 years ago, I kind of ventured my way up to the E39 area and messed around with the walleyes up there. Had some decent success, but it's not easy fishing up there, just because it's like, I feel like they're few and far between, but like the bites that you get are usually pretty big fish.
And that's funny. I was talking to someone about this earlier today, about how everybody goes you hear about the tournament guys go up Beta-Knock and they go from Okana, whatever, and they're traveling this way and they catch these huge amounts of fish. They don't talk about all the times guys go up there and don't get them, right?
Yeah.
You don't really hear about the times somebody spent, 3 hours driving up there, stopping to get gas and getting up there, and they just don't have what it takes to get the fish in the boat, and they go,
Well, I think that's what's interesting too, especially like up there in the summer, doing the whole live scope, like casting at fish and stuff like that is, I don't know that. There's going to be days where it's lights out and you're going to catch a lot of fish, and they're all going to be big. But I think more times than not, the numbers that you put in the boat are not crazy. You might be looking at a 5-fish day is a good day. Like you're looking for a couple fish, and so they're out there, in the numbers, but sometimes it's just hard to get them to eat. So
it's true.
It's challenging, but yeah, I love open water fishing, love ice fishing. I'm getting excited for ice fishing. I haven't been out yet, but I'm hoping to get out this weekend, and I think it's going to be.
It should be nice.
Good.
We warm up. Hopefully, get a little more cold next couple of days and lock us up here for the winter.
I know. Yeah, I think I was a little worried about the wind last night. I thought it was gonna blow some of the ice away, but I think on the bay at least, that's just probably just turning it up and getting everything cooled off. So hopefully we get some calm days, some really cold weather, and it really firms things up, so we have a better ice season than we have.
It hasn't been very good lately. So you make videos as well. You have a YouTube page that's pretty phenomenal. You make great videos.
I appreciate it.
So what made you want to start doing that?
Yeah, I don't know. Ever since I was young, I just really liked kind of like videography and like making videos. I don't really know where that came from or why I like doing it. Probably just the generation that I grew up in, I guess, with the internet and videos being so popular. So I've always like enjoyed that, like recording, editing, that kind of thing. And just loved to fish. And I really liked to like film what I enjoyed doing. Like when I was younger, I always would like film stuff that I liked to do. It was just, I don't know why I did it, but yeah, now, so growing up, it was like all the fishing YouTubers and stuff.
So who's the one that you watched the most growing up, or who are the people that kind of? It
was probably Perrick, AP Basson for sure. I remember being in like middle school and high school and just thinking, oh, these guys are so cool. Like, I was never gonna be that guy, of course, but I don't know. I just thought it was fun to share like the passion of fishing and what you like to do, and so I did some YouTube here and there. Haven't done as much of it recently, but more so on like Instagram and Facebook and that kind of thing, like creating short form type of videos, which I don't know, I just enjoy it. I think it's fun. It's a good time, and I just like to share what I like to do with people.
So do you when you do make videos, do you go out with the idea of making a video, or are you the guy that films everything and see what happens?
I've always had a hard time with that. Like, I feel like I may go out with the intent to film something, but I'm bad about the fact that I don't necessarily do it until like maybe the fishing's good or something, which everyone wants to watch a video where you're catching fish,
true.
but the reality is that's just not the case. How many times you go out and you maybe only catch 1 or 2 fish, or maybe you don't catch any,
Right.
So it's like, I struggle with that, and I definitely want to do more of just kind of documenting the process, like trying to teach people what I do and like what can kind of set you apart as an angler. Cause I feel like I've spent a lot of time doing it that I can share kind of the knowledge that I've gained, especially in like the smallmouth game and stuff like that.
Right.
So
That's cool. So do you do tournaments at all or no?
I do. Really my one tournament of the year is the Sturgeon Bay Open for the most part. I did that with my buddy 2 years ago. And then we did it last year as well. So I think it's going to be a yearly thing.
Right. I think it's one of the coolest tournaments there's out there.
It's so cool, especially with the people that you get to fish against.
Right. Everybody flocks up, which is for a walleye guy, I don't really pay attention to names much, but like you get to a point where you're like, God, look at all these people that are coming over here to fish.
People like Hoyer and
Corey Sprangle come and fish it, all that kind of stuff. So it's just crazy that everybody kind of flies up to it and just, it's one of those events that kind of transcends everything. There's big guys that are pick on bass guys and walleye guys, but that one for some reason gets no shame. Everybody wants to fish.
Yeah, no, I think it's so fun. I think it's such a cool event. It's run very well. And the only thing about it is, there's the controversy of weigh-in tournaments with bass fishing. That's been a big thing. And I know that's been talked about a lot with the Sturgeon Bay Open, when you're, especially this year, because it was, I would say probably 85 to 90% of the field was probably bed fishing around Sturgeon Bay because it was such a warm spring. So that was, and me personally, I'm not a bed fisherman. It's just doesn't, I don't know. I just don't really understand it that much. I mean, I get it.
Right.
When I was younger, I had done it.
Yeah.
But it's just something that I don't really enjoy. So I stayed away from it during the tournament, but it's part of the game.
Right.
It's just one of those things. So it'll be an interesting topic in the future just to see what happens with, tournament fishing in general.
Yeah. Cause it's really come down to only a few series are left.
Yeah.
On the walleye sides, MWC, obviously NWT, and then Merck Nationals, and that's it.
Yeah.
That I can think of. I'm sure there's other ones in other states, but as far as the big ones, that's pretty much it. And bass is pretty much, I don't know, other than Sturgeon Bay, I don't know much about bass tournaments, but it seems like all they're gone to weigh to as well.
Yeah, and I think, I personally think weigh on the water will be kind of the future of the format, and I think it should go in that direction. In my personal opinion, I just feel like it's just better for the fishery, better for the fish. Yeah, it's cool to have a live weigh in and see the fish.
It's not extra stress though, keeping them alive.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. It's something that I think about a lot. I think it's something that's obviously talked about a lot. And people have strong opinions on either side of it, and I see both sides, but I do think that it's got to move towards that way on the water.
I can imagine. I would assume within like 2 or 3 years where there'll be no live wells left.
I know there's been, I think, some DNR studies around the bay, just in like walleyes and smallmouth, and how that might impact the population. So I don't know. I feel like I don't know a lot about those studies and how many are actually done, but I feel like it's something that we should put a lot of focus on.
Right. It's a lot of fish, especially as the more tournaments get, there seems to be more people participating in tournaments more than.
Oh, and the forward-facing sonar deal too. That's contributing to people catching more fish and having more success on the water. So there's that challenge too.
Hey listeners, let's talk outdoor streaming. What is the best outdoor streaming platform out there? Well, it's simple. It's Fixed TV. Not only do they have this great program, but they have all kinds of hunting and fishing shows along with some weaponry shows. So when you get bored and need something to do, get your fix with Fixed TV. And when you're done with that and you have that fix to get out in the outdoors, jump on therealshot.com and get everything you need to satisfy your fix.
But yeah, I think.
Plus, all the regulations are getting weird now, so a lot of tournaments have to go with what they're. So when NWT was in Green Bay last year, they have 3. 3 fish, well, instead of their normal 5, right? Because the DNR in all these different places. So I feel like if they get rid of the live weigh-in, then we can go back to 5 fish. And I don't know, it's kind of weird. I mean, it's tough. I do the AIM and a local big walleye club, and it's pitcher and release, and it's pretty nice because you just catch your fish and move on, and they're back in the water, and you don't feel so bad about it on a hot day that you're taking these big, you put a big girl in the live well and you have to babysit her and ice her and turn her blue, from the from G juice.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously the challenge with that is
how do smallmouth, are they better in the tank, or are they pretty hardy, or no? I guess
I haven't had, I mean, like I said, I really only fished that tournament, or I've fished a couple other tournaments outside of that, but I'm not like super into the tournament fishing. So the experience I've had with those up there is I haven't had a problem with them in the live well, really. I think when the water's a little bit warmer, you'll definitely have some issues, but with that colder spring water, I think they usually do pretty good. They're usually pretty hardy, but yeah, I mean, that's the challenge, is like, if you do weigh on the water, then, how you got to have all these regulation scales, or like the walleye ones, I think, do they do it by length?
Usually? Do by length, and they do
like a conversion to weight or something like that. Yeah.
Which is, I mean, sometimes you can weigh them, you're like, oh, you're a little off, but everybody's playing the same field. The field doesn't really much matter. I mean, you do have those fish that are like, oh my God, this is a 26 that's, like 7 pounds, and I got a 28 that's skinny as a rail.
Yeah.
So, but if we're all playing in the same sandbox, to me, I don't know if it really would matter.
Right. And I think with a tournament like this, that's so big, or something like the NWT, you almost have to have another, like an official in the boat doing the weighing, kind of like, some of the bass tournaments do, some of the bigger bass circuits do. So I don't know. I think there's a lot that'll go into it, but I think we're slowly, moving in the right direction. I don't know.
I look forward to it being gone. I have a feeling that it's going to be, by the time I'm done fishing, that it'll be all pitch and release. But a lot of things, like even like your generation, you guys don't keep a lot of fish. I've noticed that in talking to people, and my dad was in here a couple of weeks ago and grew up. They're keeping everything. I mean, he was product of the Depression, so they keep everything because they want to eat it. But you guys seem to not really keep much anything. You're more storytellers. You take your picture and move on.
No, it's funny you mentioned that. I totally agree with that too. I think that, I mean, everyone has their reason why they fish, right? Some people do it for the sport. I mean, for me, that's kind of more how it is. I just love doing it, and I just think that I just admire like some of these big fish. I just think it's honestly, I just think it's incredible, like how big they can get. I think it's cool, and I love releasing them and just seeing them go back. I think that's part of like the reward for me, almost, in a way. But from time to time, I like to keep fish, keep a couple walleyes. But I think that's the case. I think there's a lot of the older generation that it seems like they fish to eat fish.
Yeah, they fish to fill up.
Yeah, I mean, there's people out there that they're like, I mean, I'll post videos sometimes like releasing a big fish, and they're like, oh, like you didn't fry that up, like releasing a 25+ inch walleye. Right. People are like, oh, that's crazy. Like, why wouldn't you keep that? I don't know. I would if I'm gonna keep fish, I would rather keep like a 15 to 20 inch walleye, personally.
Yeah, I growing up, we it was everything and anything, and we'd fish the spring walleye, and there's pictures that I would be crucified if came out of me with the stringers and stuff in the garage. But it just, the times have changed, and thank God they have. I mean, we got to keep making sure the fisheries are good to go for us. And I always joke, I wonder what would happen if LiveScope would have been around when the old guys had it. If they're, I see some of them out there trying and putting down there. It's pretty funny, I see the old guys out there.
Well, I think that a lot of that generation, I would say they're more against LiveScope. It seems like, I mean, just from what I've gathered, and I mean, understandable. Like, if they're more of the people that prefer to keep fish, like they're fishing to keep fish, I mean, I can see how you might think, well, you're going to absolutely kill the population of fish if people are constantly keeping them and they're using LiveScope, which makes it easier. So I don't know. Like I said, I love eating fish. I mean, it's great, but for me, like the reward is like releasing a big fish and seeing it, go back for either another person to enjoy or whatever it may
Especially that deep clear water, you can see them go down even farther.
It's insane. It's insane. Yeah, some of my I guess videos that do the best are the ones that are just like sight. You can see the fish on the bottom.
I was gonna get into that. Your sight fishing videos.
Yeah, they.
Crazy.
I mean, I love it. It never gets old, and I feel like people love watching it.
Right.
I mean, I'll watch.
It's almost like you're there. To be honest, like when I'm watching it, I'm like, no, you gotta go to your left, a little to your left.
Yeah, I mean, I'll pull those videos up once in a while and just watch them. I'm like, oh, that's so cool. But yeah, this spring I was fishing smallmouth actually, and it was probably tail end of post spawn walleye, I would say, and found this area where we were fishing smallmouth and we were catching some like a couple 6-pounders. Nice. And all of a sudden we start noticing we had like a walleye or two follow our baits back to the boat. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like you can tell they're big. We're in like semi deep water near some shallow water, and it was awesome. All of a sudden, before we know it, we're on top of like a little rock transition, and you've got big smallmouth and you've got walleyes just rolling around on the bottom. And I mean, every smallmouth is like 5+ pounds and every walleye is over 27 inches. It was absurd. It was just the coolest thing ever. And my buddy has a walleye follow a swim bait back to the boat. I throw one out and I'm like reeling back a little ways behind him. That fish comes to the bottom under the boat, kind of turns off and starts swimming away, sees my bait, starts following it. I just kill it and let it drop in the rocks, and the thing just goes down, sucks it right off of the bottom. just craziness. I mean, I can't believe that they were even eating. It's just post spawn, just feeding heavily. But I mean, they didn't even care. They'd swim right underneath the boat. Didn't matter. They were just It was.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome video. I mean, I've heard of that stuff and seen other people videos, but just not just knowing of when it happens. And
I mean, a lot of it happens so quick.
Right.
Like,
And you wouldn't think it because how skittish they are, right? And I'm like, man, I can't get getting close to, unless it's dirty water or something like that. But being that clear, I mean, it was crystal clear.
Yeah, I couldn't believe my eyes really, and that I just feel like walleyes up there are so skittish. And they just, if they even see the boat, like they're probably out of there. So I don't know. It was a crazy experience, and I think most people wouldn't necessarily think to like, pull out their phone and record, but that's just like kind of how I'm wired with like, I like making videos.
Right.
So I'm like, that's crazy. Like I got to get my phone out and record or something or whatever.
That's the hard part too. You have these moments where you're like, sometimes I get where I'm like all fired up on fish, and I'm like, okay, you gotta do something with this other than catching fish. You gotta start recording this or grab something out and like you gotta document this somehow. Sometimes you just get hung up, you just keep catching fish. You're like, shit, I should have pulled something out.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I've always had that challenge. I don't know. Sometimes you just want to go fish.
Yeah,
right? Like I don't want to record.
Right, yeah, you got to put the YOLO on the back and the GoPro on the window and get all that stuff set up. And I try to do that, at least if something crazy happens, at least have it on there. But other videos I try to do with my phone and stuff, and it's like, okay, I should do this right now, but I didn't.
Yeah, I don't know. And that's the thing too. Like you stumble on a good bite or something and you're just having fun fishing and you're like, man, I could have just recorded like a sweet video and I didn't. But I don't know. I think that's part of the fun. And the other challenge that I have personally is just recording and everything to do with like spots. I don't know if you run into that or if you don't really care.
It's all like most of the stuff is all community spots. To me, not community spots, but I generally don't care. Yeah. I actually wanted to make a series of posts where I blur out the fish and me, but not the background. Do the opposite. Funny, yeah. I mean, I get it. I understand, especially when you get so I guess I probably do the same thing when I do like 12 tournaments here. So I don't post nothing the week before a tournament.
Sure, yeah.
And to me, that's probably the same thing, right? And I should, a lot of cool things happen, but I just kind of like, okay, whatever, and kind of get off of posting things. But then sometimes I do post, and people are like, you shouldn't have posted that. Or a partner goes, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, it's a big fish.
Yeah.
Like, cool. But you can see it in the background. I go, oops, sorry. You know?
Right. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I love posting those cool videos, but at the same time, I just know that depending on where it is, you know, you have those areas where it's like, okay, this is more of like a common area that a lot of people know about. And then there's this stuff that not as many people know about. But I don't know. I go back and forth on it because I feel like if someone can figure out a spot, they've probably been near there or around there in order to recognize it. Not always, but sometimes.
It's pretty crazy. Like when I watch head to head, if they just give me just a couple seconds of a shoreline.
Oh, I'm the same.
Because you think about it, you're out there so much. Right? What are you staring at? You're staring at your shore or your electronics.
Yeah.
And it's pretty simple. So for somebody that goes a bunch, you can pretty much figure out where they are pretty quickly.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like sometimes I have like a sixth sense when it comes to that. Even if I haven't fished there before, which is the scary part. I don't know. I just maybe it's because I'm good at that kind of thing, and I think that everyone else is also, but. I don't know. It's challenging.
I have to say one thing about the old generation. They do stalk the Facebook.
Oh,
they're definitely Facebook stalkers. The old guys, they definitely do that.
I think all of us do. I mean, myself included. I've done it before.
A little bit, but I really used to get me fired up. Like, you know, I wasn't really into, I didn't want to go ice fishing this weekend. I had other things I want to do. And then I started seeing pictures come out. I'm like, oh, I kind of want to go now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I feel like that's a lot of like the fishing social media is like, it's awesome seeing what people are catching, but also like you probably follow a lot of people because they're local people. Like you want to maybe learn about the bite when the bite's good. I mean, that's a big thing. Like people see you catching fish at a certain time and they send it off to their buddy. They're like, hey, let's go fish this next weekend. Like the bite's good, or like, you know, stuff like that. So, I mean, I think that's been a big thing about social media and fishing, and that's why it's become so
I think it's funny because you have the older generation that are getting into Facebook because they want a fish book, as I call it, and you younger generation that's getting into Facebook too because it's almost like the fishing world.
Yeah,
for a lot of us, I only use it for marketplace for buy fish and stuff or for fish and post.
Yeah, I think
it's weird that way.
Facebook is like, it is weird. Facebook, there's like a big kind of fishing community on there.
Yes.
It's weird. I don't even know how to describe it. It's interesting. Like you'll have people send you like friend requests that you don't even know. Yeah. And it's kind of cool. Like you just like connect with people that you don't even know just because you fish.
For sure. And it's the weirdest thing because I don't really know of any other social platform. I mean, Instagram to a point, but people that just got like everybody seems to stick into Facebook.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed right away. Like, I mean, because I used to be a big like lake linker when I was like learning. That's a whole nother topic that we can talk about. But I don't know, when I was like getting into fishing and was trying to like learn more, I feel like Facebook was like a big thing where there's so many awesome groups out there that you can learn from, but there's the other side of the coin where
those comments get rough.
I can't help it, but I love it. I think I don't think it's good for the fishing community in general, but I mean, oh my gosh, reading some of that stuff, it blows my mind. I don't know.
I generally love I live for the comments. That's kind of always been my game. If it's on TikTok, I'll post something and I'll pick on somebody. And you know, I spent a whole couple years just ripping on crossbow people, right? Just for fun, right? And I'm a crossbow guy, right? Just because I thought it was funny, and I just love the comments make me chuckle all the time. I didn't get out of hand, but
it's. I mean, man, I post some stuff and I'm like, some of the comments you get are just insane. Like, I mean. I really don't care. I think most of the time I just think it's funny. I'm like, it doesn't really mean anything to me. But man, some people are ruthless.
Right? Yeah.
It is crazy.
Especially on Facebook when your name's attached to it, right? Other place.
I don't really understand that either. Like people comment this stuff, and I mean, you've probably seen before on Facebook when someone comments. Sometimes you'll see like your friend commented on something. You'll actually like see that in your feed. So I'm always like looking at this. I'm like, how do you like toss this out there? And you've got 500 friends,
Right. Just throw
some
this
of
grenade
which
out
you
there.
don't know very well, and
Yep.
you just said something crazy. I don't know. It's funny. It's crazy.
It makes me chuckle.
Yeah, it definitely a downside of it, but I mean, you can get a little entertainment out of
It's,
it. once in a
yeah,
while,
you
for
very much
sure.
get some
For
entertainment out of
sure.
it, especially when you know you're putting something there that's gonna cause a ruckus. You're like, I'm just gonna hit send here and give me a couple minutes, and all of a sudden the phone just starts beeping.
That's a problem with some of those groups though too. Like, I mean, you know, they make them for reports or things like that, and oh, man, people like even someone just like asks like a genuine question, people would just rip them apart in the comments. It's
yeah.
like,
Either way, the funny part was either way. So
Yeah.
like if you kept a 22-inch in the spring, you're gonna have half the comments that think you're a complete piece of shit.
yep,
And the other half's going to say, hey, man, take what you need to feed your family, right? And that's just like an intersection of those two worlds. I kind of feel like that's how Lake Link died, is that you didn't have, it wasn't really associated with you.
no,
You know what I mean? Because Lake Link, there wasn't like Facebook, you're kind of, your backstory's already built there. So people can click and, unless you just be a dick and do a complete fake one, it's
Yeah.
generally you. So people
Right.
kind of are on, but I feel like Lake Link was
like,
just,
like walleye hunter 1 2 3. You know,
yeah,
like
yeah. Lake
stuff
Link was
like
kind of
that.
the Wild West. It just was like whatever from, yeah,
I mean, I knew buddies back in the day that would make a random username and just like
right,
make some
right.
crazy fake post on Lake Link.
Yeah, I do know that I wasn't part of it. A friend of mine posted where Larry Smith was one time, just for shits and giggles, just to be funny.
Yeah, yeah. Just
It blew up. It was funny, but he didn't care. But he's like, I think the post was on the lines of, "Hey, all you truck followers or something like that. He's over here if you want to go catch. If you can't, since you can't get your fish, go here." Basically, is what it was. And it just like,
Oh, my.
I'm like, wow, that was spectacular. And it was like the first. I'm like, wow, the power of social media. I haven't
It's
been on
crazy.
Lake Link. It's still around.
It is, yeah. It
I
is.
haven't been on there much.
I
for a
like
while.
once in a while I'll just randomly go on there just for kicks, just to see what's going on. But I mean, it really is kind of dead. There's not a whole lot going on there anymore. It seems like you may have one person.
It was
that
the place to be though. For
Oh, it was. Yeah, when I was in high school, especially like 2017, probably 2018. It was
Yeah,
big.
for
And
sure.
before that, I'm sure it was even bigger.
yeah, I remember it would be like, especially when it's ice time, it was refreshed for the ice. I cared about a lot of it was for me was if it was ice or not. And then once there was ice, I was like, okay, whatever. I'm
Yeah.
pretty much done. But I just want to know where there's ice when I have to go check all these spots. And that was pretty awesome. And they had people would go out there and take pictures or whatever and post, hey, it's 4 inches, 5 inches, and you're like, awesome. And then
Yeah. Back in the day, I mean, I put videos on there too, and those would get all sorts of views. It was crazy. But yeah, I don't know. It was one of those things that I just messed around on all the time, and I don't know. It was fun.
yeah, that was where'd you go, Lake Link? Where'd you go?
Yeah, I don't know. Crazy.
Yeah, it was. I thought it would. I thought it would. I thought it'd keep going. They got a bunch of sponsors, and it just was like, I'm gone.
Hey listeners, let's talk outdoor streaming. What is the best outdoor streaming platform out there? Well, it's simple. It's Fix TV. Not only do they have this great program, but they have all kinds of hunting and fishing shows along with some weaponry shows. So when you get bored and need something to do, get your fix with Fix TV. And when you're done with that and you have that fix to get out in the outdoors, jump on therealshot.com and get everything you need to satisfy your fix.
I don't know what happened. I think had to be just a combination of
Right.
people screwing off, and I don't know.
I should have mixed them with the what's the other one that's out there? The walleye cam. I should have put them together.
The wall.
You ever seen the walleye cam?
Well, like the Wolf River?
Yeah, Wolf River.
Oh,
they
yeah,
should have
yeah.
combined them together, made one big.
Yeah, that's kind of a funny thing that they do.
Right? I like that. I think I wish we had more of that. I wanted them. I was trying to get them at Fix to do one on like one of the bridges to see the guys fishing above.
Oh yeah.
Would be dope, like an Oshkosh or somewhere
I
in
can only
Orla
imagine the comment section in that,
Right?
you know, watching people just, yeah, no, that's super funny.
So what's your favorite way to fish smallmouth?
Favorite way? I'm a finesse guy at heart. I don't know. When I started fishing and learning about them, it was always a challenge because I mean, so many times in the spring you'd see them up shallow, and I'm like, I can't get these things to eat. You know, they can see you obviously, and I do a lot of like shore fishing when I was younger. And you'd see all these fish, and you're like, how do I get them to eat? So I really went down the rabbit hole of like learning the finesse game, and I figured out that for me that was like the way to get them to eat. You know, long leaders, really light leaders, small baits, small hooks, light weights, nothing real heavy, that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of patience. You know, a lot of guys absolutely hate fishing like that. I think most people would prefer to power fish them. You know, throw a crankbait, jerk bait, something like that, something fast. But just because of that, like I've just learned to love like finesse fishing.
I suppose a lot of the
totally my thing.
A lot of the average guys probably that's what they're fishing. They're doing more power throwing crankbaits, and
it can be effective for sure. But I just found like I'm like,
but most people aren't going to learn on the weekends that go out a couple times a year aren't going to be learning how to finesse fish. Usually.
No, and it takes
time.
Oh, I started doing it when I was 10 up there, I think. 2010 is like when I like started like really got into it, and I mean it was like year after year, like learning more, putting the pieces of the puzzle together. So I mean, I've done it for 14 years now, you know. So it's like at some point you really start to put the pieces of the puzzle together for the body of water that you're at, and just when you put that much time in,
right?
Like anything else, like
build memories.
Yeah, you're gonna get better and better at it for sure. So
what do you want to get better at? Is there a technique you want to get better at?
Yeah, what do I want to get better at?
Because we all have our list. Like I was talking about this earlier today, I have my notes list of things that from listening to podcasts through deer hunting that I just write down. Hey, I want to do this. Hey, I want to try this. I want to try that. Yeah. What's on your number one list that you want to get figured out?
List. As far as like a technique goes.
Yeah, technique.
What's the first one that comes to mind? Probably, I would really like to get better at A-rig fishing. That's something that I've kind of recently started messing around with. But
wild.
Yeah, it's such a cool technique. Like it's really cool, and it's amazing that there's like so many different parts to it, as far as, you know, size of the rig, whether you put blades on it or don't do blades on it, you know, just weights, and whether or not you want to use all the same weights, you want to use a couple different weights on certain arms, how heavy you want it to be, the size swim baits you use. I mean, there's a lot to it. I think it's a crazy technique. I really do.
Right. I can't imagine somebody came up with that, and like I couldn't even. I mean, I think it's some crazy stuff that I want to do, but I never would have thought of that.
No, and I haven't gotten to the point. And there's a lot of techniques like that where like even like a jerk bait. I like jerk bait fishing, but like I said, I'm more of like a finesse guy, so it's not something that I've spent a lot of time with and like mastered or anything. So that's something I want to figure out more, because I feel like, I don't know, and maybe it's just because I'm not good enough with the jerk bait, I haven't put enough time in, but I feel like 9 times out of 10 I can catch them better finesse fishing. But I know that's not necessarily true,
right?
Because you see people on
your confidence levels there though.
Yeah, right. And that's a big thing, is like fishing your confidence baits, like you're gonna catch more fish, you know. But I've seen on like the Elite Series and stuff, guys just crush them on jerk baits, and I'm like, what are they doing that just makes them catch so many fish? Like, is it just, and it doesn't, to them it doesn't really necessarily always seem like a timing thing. And I always feel like jerk bait is such a timing thing, like water temperature, or just how the fish are behaving and eating, like if they're eating bigger bait fish. But they make it seem like you can do it year round.
That's
so
why,
and that goes for so many techniques.
Right, for sure. That is true. Yeah, I spent, I looked to bass fishing a lot more than I used to, like for lures and for techniques. Drop shot obviously has been awesome for the walleye world in the last couple of years. Most of my crankbaits I throw are not made by walleye companies. They're from Strike King or other bass ones. It's like you just find things that are different. I feel like you have to kind of keep moving forward, different techniques.
Well,
and
I got to ask you that. So, and that's one thing I've thought about a lot because I like finesse fishing is, and I don't feel like this is really much of a thing, is like finesse walleyes on the bay. Like that, it seems like they're so reaction driven. People haven't explored like that finesse side, I don't feel like. Well, or at least you don't see it. Maybe it's out there and it's more of a secret.
I believe it's out there. I did talk to a gentleman that last year NWT was doing finesse, and he did really well. South, but they weren't big fish.
Okay.
So when the alewives in there, he was doing finesse. He was basically dragging hair jigs and going super slow and doing that kind of thing with it. Nothing like too, but yeah, he was. I mean, I think it's there. I think so. I mean,
I want to explore because when I get more into walleye fishing, I want to try it and see what happens. Because I don't see.
I think that it's tough because you couldn't. The way that walleye fishing is right now is obviously everybody's watching NWT, and it's suspended fish, working them fast. So with the forward facing sonar, I think we're going to get down to forward facing sonar. I think it's tough because they can't pick them out of the rocks yet. I mean, it's very tough to pick a fish. In my opinion, it's hard for me to pick fish out of the rocks. I know they're there, right? You can see them every now and then if they rise or fall, but if they're tight to the bottom,
and you don't know if they're there,
you have no freaking clue, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I like to, so those areas I'll try to pass over with the side scan and see if I can pick out one or two. Okay, they're obviously in here. I'm gonna see what's in here. Right. But as a river guy, I have a little more confidence that if I know there's rocks here and there's bait fish here, there should be something here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's probably one of those things where you would have to locate the fish first. And once you know you're on fish, I wonder, like, talking like really finesse swim baits or just even like small like goby imitators that you might use for bass. Like, I just wonder if, I mean, because I've caught walleyes on tubes before.
For sure,
that. Yep. I wonder if there's, space for that where maybe people just don't realize,
I'm sure there's. I mean, we didn't realize that the bite was so reactionary like this. We didn't. I mean, for most of my life up until 3 years ago, if you didn't touch the bottom, you weren't catching a walleye. And now it's completely flipped, where if you're touching the bottom, you're not catching big enough walleyes. You need to get up in the water. You know what I mean? Now you need to be up in the water column, otherwise you're not going to place or whatever.
Yeah, I think one of the baits that seems more finessey like that would be the death jig. Yep. Obviously using live bait on that though.
But these guys fish that pretty fast though sometimes too. I feel like that's a pretty fast. Well, maybe not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I just see it more as like, because it's not really it's not a reaction.
That's
bait.
True.
It's not
that's
like
true.
a big.
That's true.
It's not like a big bait that you're cracking or anything. It's more of like the cast at a fish, slow reveal.
I got you that way.
I don't know. I think that's something I'd like to explore.
But even just in general, I mean, jigging and crawlers been king for a while now. It's coming back, and basically a death jig is a jig and a crawler. I mean, it's just a heavier one.
That's true.
And you just cast off farther.
Yeah, I just wonder. Yeah, like the finesse artificial baits. If there's like,
I don't buy. So I stopped buying. Spring, I don't buy minnows anymore. I'll buy crawlers in the summertime because I don't have much of a choice. I don't have a choice, but normally it's all plastics. My boat's full of plastics.
Well, that's the other thing I wonder too is,
and your bass plastics are awesome.
Yeah, with just like the forward facing and the whole like shaking a minnow and mid strolling and all that stuff. That I think, I don't know, but I have a very, very strong suspicion that that's gonna like come into play on the bay for sure.
I think so. Well, there's like, you watch some of these guys' cadences are so, if you're. The cadences of how they're catching them is getting more bassy and bassy it's not just the up and down. It's the whole, you go through the whole phone book.
And that's one thing I want to try though, is like throwing a minnow at those things and just like, just shaking it and slow rolling it mid column and seeing if they'll, I think you could probably catch fish doing that. I don't know. I'm curious.
I mean, the catch fish, they're doing the bobbers again, bobbers back, bobbers back strong. It's, I mean, that's how I kind of learned how to fish live scope again. I wasn't very good at understanding how my distance is, right? So I started by that, and I wasn't good at picking out the stuff coming down at first. So I'm like, hey, I got an extra split shot on here. I got this on there. So I kind of learned that way by being able to cast and retrieve back. Okay, there it is. Here I am.
Sure.
And that's kind of was like my like training wheels to it. Because at first I would cast things out. I had no clue. And you're throwing a 3/8 ounce or half ounce depth jig, and that thing takes off. I mean, you can cast the thing a long ways, right? I'm thinking I'm casting 60 feet, and it's 80 feet, and I'm like, where to go? Oh, there I am. Now I'm here.
And it's like falling like a rock.
Yeah, right. And that's just a whole different way to fish.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love it. I think it's so cool. I'm gonna try to do a lot of that, just scoping and like casting at fish. I don't know. I think it's so fun.
It is fun.
I really think it's cool, and I've had really good days catching big fish, and I've done some fishing in northern Wisconsin too for smallmouth, and done really good on that, like throwing swim baits at.
So does it feel like if you go someplace else though, you're like, it's not like 6 pounders.
Well, yeah, usually.
I mean, it's Looney Tunes. You catch 6 pound. The size of the fish up there are just crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's part of the allure to Green Bay for me is like.
But how do you leave there and go someplace else and fish?
Well, as the years have gone on, I slowly have not left as often. But there's a good class of big smallmouth up in northern Wisconsin. So, I mean, it was 2 summers ago, one of my buddies, we had like a 29, just a little over 29-pound bag.
Wow.
For a day of fishing, and one of my buddies caught a 6.5.
Wowzers.
So up until that point, that was, I think, the biggest smallmouth I had seen. And then I caught a couple that were 6.5 this spring. But yeah, up until then, that was like the biggest smallmouth I had seen. Obviously, there's plenty of those out in the bay.
Right.
But I mean, that was cool. So I like going up there, and I like ice fishing up there a lot. Like walleye fishing through the ice up there, doing a little panfish.
Right.
I think it's just so different because you can go up there and you got so many options that you can fish whatever species you want. You got so many lakes to choose from, which can be a great and a terrible thing at the same time. So
if you could only go fishing one more time, where would you go? Who'd you take?
Where would I go? Who would I take? Well, it's going to be Door County, and it's probably going to be probably my buddy Sam or my buddy Turner. Probably both of them. Good bass buddies.
Go smack on them one more time.
Yeah. No, that would 100% be.
Is there any places you want to go fishing, like on your list of places to go?
Yeah.
Bucket list.
I really want to do standard rock lake trout. That's kind of out of left field, I know. Right. But I think that
I grew up lake trout fishing on Green Lake, so I always had a blast jigging them through the ice. Oh my God, it was so much fun.
I want to do that. I would like to. I'm definitely gonna fish like beta knock and little beta knock more for smallmouth, and I want to do walleyes up there. And then I would love to check out Lake Erie for smallmouth. I've heard a lot of. Sounds like Lake Erie.
They're getting some big fish out of there.
It's pretty crazy for smallmouth.
Right. Looks rough. It looks pretty rough. Pretty rough though.
Yeah, I don't know. I between that or like that or the St. Lawrence would be sweet too. I think
there's not a lot of walleye fish, tournament fish on TV, so I get my fix from watching bass.
Oh, do you?
Bass. Oh yeah, it'll be MLF will be on or HOH will be on or whatever, and I'll just be like, just watching for the competition, right? Or if it's somebody down south, or if it's bass fishing or bass BS or whatever it is, the Masters Series, and just to get the fix, right? See all the different things to do. Just see how boats are set up, or just how somebody sets their boat up is the coolest thing. Like, in the morning, I'm always peeking. I'm like, no, I'm not looking at what your poles are. I want to see how you're set up, how your stuff is set, how you're this and that. It's all just kind of
electronics, stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's part of the fun of like just watching fishing is, at least for me now. Like, I remember I'll watch it for entertainment now and again, but I feel like more so now I've gotten to the point where I watch it because I like, although this has always been the case, I've always wanted to like learn something when I watch it, but I feel like you get to the point where a lot of the content out there and the stuff out there is it's pretty like, I don't know, sort of intermediate type of stuff, if you know what I mean.
Yep. Oh, I
feel
gotcha.
like there's
Yep.
a lot of, I mean, you know, people don't like sharing their
No,
secrets and
no.
stuff like that.
They
Obviously.
kind of feel like they
So,
share what's already out there.
yeah, and that's one thing that I'd like to, I don't know, try to tap into is like just share those things that people don't necessarily talk about or that you don't really hear about. Because
Right.
like for me, when I go out there and I want to learn stuff, like that's the kind of stuff where I'm like, whoa,
Right.
you know, like I want to like learn that information where I hear it, I'm like, wow,
Right.
I've never thought of that, you know, and like that's crazy to me. That kind of, I don't know, I think that kind
Right.
of stuff is
That's
awesome.
true. Yeah. Those are when I have to pull out the phone and make a note when I hear something like that. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, try that.
Yeah. No, and I mean, there's certain people out there. I feel like for whether it be podcasts or videos, any of that kind of stuff. Like, there's definitely certain people out there that are like, they've got that kind of stuff.
Oh,
down.
for sure,
Where, like,
yeah.
you
Mhm.
listen to them just about every time
Yeah.
you listen to them, you're like, oh wow, like
Yeah, it's
I
little
learned this,
things,
I
yep.
learned that. Which I think is cool.
Right, for
I
sure,
think
yeah.
that part of it's super cool. But
Awesome.
yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It was great.
It was a
great
fun talk.
talking.
Again, I was seeing your stuff. I always love your stuff. Always big ass smallies and then you've got everything up there. It's been cool watching your
Yeah.
stuff. So
No, I appreciate it. I'll hopefully I'll become more of a walleye guy soon. You know, target a couple more walleyes
there you go.
and stuff like that.
That's
so.
awesome. Well, if you're looking to be on an episode of Walleye Chronicles, hit me up on my socials at Matt Snell on Facebook and Instagram and Smile and Fish on the TikTok. Until then, there's two things you can do to make somebody's day. One is give them a smile, and two, take them fishing. Thanks a lot.